This is the time for the panel discussion. And today we're talking about youth agripreneurship, unlocking opportunities in agriculture for the next generation. So to facilitate this session, or to moderate this session rather, I have the honor to invite the programs manager at African Food Changemakers, Kachi Nwachukwu, to take on this session. Oh yeah, I can see her smiling already. All right, Kachi, good afternoon, and I will leave the virtual mic to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patience. Good afternoon, good evening, East Africa. And thank you very much, Patience, for the fantastic job you have been doing. I welcome you again to today's Agri-Webinar. Yesterday, we had a very interesting session and very insightful conversation. And today would not be any less. So today, what are we going to be discussing? Youth in agriculture for the next generation. I stumbled upon a report recently that Africa's contribution to agricultural trade is 4%. Global agricultural trade is 4%. Compared to Europe, that is doing 41%, and the Americas, that is South America and North America, that is doing 41%. And to think that this other continents, I'm talking Europe, I'm talking Americas, they are dealing with a declining population, declining youthful population, meaning that they have more aging population than they have their youthful population. Africa, on the other hand, is blessed with a youthful population. 60% of the people that are on the African continent are youth. In fact, 60% of Africans are under the age of 25. With this youthful population, with our arable land, we are only doing 4% of global agricultural trade. That is abysmally poor. That is unfortunate, and I think that is truly a call to action and a wake-up call for everybody, not just Africa Food Changemakers and members of our community, but everybody who is truly concerned about the future of Africa. And to really help us make sense out of this topic, I have very knowledgeable and practical panelists that will be helping provide insights into some of these topics and help us take a deeper dive into how we can unlock opportunities for African youth in the agricultural value chains. And I'll be reading out their profile very shortly. Can we take the next slide, please? All right. So the first panelist is Aaron Okwi, and he is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Afam Food. And he is a specialist in public management and leadership training. He's also an agripreneur and someone that is very passionate about youth advocacy. He actually wants to see the youth involved in agricultural value chain, and he combines his experience in technology and sustainable agricultural practices and driving innovation within the sector, and his dedication to youth development and sustainable agriculture to inspire positive change within local communities and the broader agricultural ecosystem. I hope Aaron is on the call. Thank you very much for joining us. And our next panelist is Ashley. I can already see Ashley, and I can't wait for us to delve right into the conversation. So Ashley is the co-founder and strategy lead for Itanya Africa Group, and she's a social innovator and the co-founder of Itanya Africa Group that advances gender inclusion, resilience, and economic empowerment for youth. and for women in agriculture. And she has over a decade experience in this, and also has been empowering rural communities through regenerative agriculture and climate resilience practices. And most of our beneficiaries are females in Kenya and beyond. It's truly a pleasure to meet Ashley today, and she is a fellow of one of our programs, Leading Africa Women in Food Fellowship. It's really a pleasure to meet you today, Ashley. You're welcome to today's panel session. And last but not the least is Filippo Mrutu, and he is the Chief Executive Officer and the MD at Mrutu Agro Solutions. He is passionate about smart agripreneurship. So he is the founder of Smart Agripreneurship Innovation Center, and he is also a member of Africa Food Changemakers and our ambassador for over 9 years now. That's amazing. Under his guidance, his company has received notable accolades, including the African Agri Company of the Year award just last year. That is truly inspiring. He's a certified trainer and mentor. Filippo has completed international programs in agribusiness and leadership. And today he'll be providing further insights into how we can integrate our youth into the agricultural sector. I welcome you to the panel, Filippo Mrutu. Can you confirm that you're with us, Filippo?
Yes, we are together.
Awesome. Please, can we spotlight Filippo? Ashley, you're welcome. I can see you. Please, let's spotlight Ashley. And finally, Aaron. Aaron, are you with me? Are you with us on the call? Is Aaron here? Okay, so we'll be monitoring the chat box. As soon as Aaron is here, we're going to spotlight him and we're going to get him right into the conversation. So let's dig in. So starting with barriers, what are the barriers that our youth face in the agricultural value chain? Why is it that the agricultural sector is seen as obsolete, lacking in innovation, and African youth want to go into white-collar jobs than taking up opportunities in the agricultural sector? What would you say are some of the challenges inhibiting the African youth, and what are some of the solutions you propose to this? I will start with you, Ashley. Please, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kachi, for giving me this opportunity. And it's really great to be here talking about something that is really key and also dear to my heart. So going straight into it and talking about the barriers that, the youth face in agriculture. One, I would talk about a perception problem. People are now increasingly perceiving agriculture as something that is labor intensive, it's low paying, it lacks prestige. But let's be honest, if there's something that COVID taught us, is that we will forever be eating as human beings. There's not a day we will wake up and we will not eat. And so where will the food come from if we don't plant it ourselves and we don't get into agriculture ourselves? So I guess that's one of the barriers, the mental barrier that we see with a lot of young people. The one that I'm very passionate about in this case is inadequate financing. We are seeing, often a lack of credit due to limitations. Let's talk about collateral, young people being perceived as high financial risks. I work with a lot of financial institutions and, trying to tell them, hey, can we increase the amount of money that is going to young people? And part of the things that we keep saying, we need you guys to stop seeing young people as high risk. If you're talking about collateral and they don't have the collateral, can you please look for other forms of collateral that you can be able to say, this is what we will use as an alternative to get the youth to get money. So those are some of the things that are very barriers. The other one I would say is poor market access. And this one I'll give an example. I have a friend who's European, and one day he said, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that we supply food to Europe." And I was like, "No, that's not the truth. We actually supply a lot of food to Europe as Africa." And then he went on and asked me, "So what is the problem? Why is there so much hunger in Africa?" And I said, "A lot of it is a logistical issue." And that's the truth of the matter. We have a lot of food is wasted, and we have a lot of post-harvest loss because we cannot get the food to the right places. So we're talking about logistical pressure. We're talking about market linkages that make people not know where to take their produce. And we're talking about even just the reality of the matter, the brokers who make these things hard for young people. I mean, I can't spend all this money in doing farming, and then you come and give me ridiculous prices just because you want to take advantage of the situation. That's discouraging at the end of the day. But lastly, I'm going to talk about the lack of policy support. This is also something that I'm very passionate about because I've worked in policy as well. And when we talk about insufficient policies and programs that are targeting the youth in agriculture or hindering their development, we're looking at things such as food standards. Every country has, like food standards. For example, in Kenya, we have the Kenya Bureau of Food of Standards, and I've had stories from. I have friends who are doing agribusiness in Tanzania, Uganda, and I remember two specific instances. A Ugandan told me, and it was very funny. So she works with a lot of entrepreneurs who do a lot of value addition, and so that means she's constantly at the Bureau Standards office saying, "We need to register this product. We need to register this product." And one day they told her, "You're giving us too much work by being innovative." And you listen to that and you ask yourself, honestly, is that a country that is supporting its people to be innovative in the food sector or retracting their efforts? I also have a friend who's in Tanzania in agribusiness as well. One of her biggest barriers has been to register her products. And it's just because people are not doing their jobs in these offices. I'm like, guys, you want to do something the right way, but there are systemic barriers that are coming coming in between you and success. And that can be discouraging at the end of the day. So I could go on and on and on, but I will give the floor to Philippe.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Honestly, I want to say, okay, so you've actually mentioned a lot of points, and I truly appreciate the points you've raised. You talked about the perception problem, how agriculture is perceived by the youth. You talked about inadequate financing, the youth being seen as high risk and not being given the collateral they need to start and scale their businesses. You talked about market access and logistical issues, poor infrastructure affecting us that we're not able to get our products away from our farms. And you harped on the policies. I absolutely agree with all your points. Ease of doing business across Africa is bad. The systemic barriers is hindering our young people from truly being active players in the agricultural value chain. And I'll come to you, Filippo. Of those 4 points that Ashley just raised, I don't know if you could give us some solutions. How do you think we can start addressing the issues around, policy somersaults and, the systemic issues that the youth deal with? Access to markets, how the government can provide infrastructure and enable our youth to get their produce out. And then I also like you to emphasize on access to finance, access to markets. How can we truly solve some of these issues? Over to you, Filippo. You're muted if you're speaking.
Hello, can you
Yes,
hear me?
we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to talk about young agripreneurs, because they are not just only based in farm production, but also they are doing different things along the value chain to see challenges as opportunities so that they can make money while find the solution to the problems that you can say they are challenges to the community. For example, the demand for food, it is said that in 2050 will increase to more than 50%, and the population will increase to just 9.2 billion people in the world. But mind you, key point about young agripreneurs is to see how are they going to use the available opportunities to create self-employment and solve the existing challenges. So I have some few points that I wanted to talk on the challenges that face young people not accessing finance. Number one is lack of knowledge and skills. Number two is the lack of collaterals and the security. And number three is about mentorship and networking opportunities. And number four is technology adoption and policy support. Starting with the number one, we know for sure there are different opportunities available, but if there is no knowledge and information shared, young people cannot get those information to apply for the grants or other kind of finances to be able to boost their activities. But the lack of collateral and the other resources also hinder them not accessing these finances. That's why 3 years ago, during consultations, about 50 youth came to me and said they want to get finance. We were trying to help them with business plans, link them to financial institutions. At the same time, we saw that most of them, they are not bankable because they had no good history for saving and something like that. So we came to the point of establishing kilimo na ujasiriamali sacco so that we can help them saving the money and build their capacity so that in the near future they can be able to lend money, not only the sacco, but also in other source of finances like banks and so on. And the other challenge is the issue of policies and technology adoption, that especially in rural areas, many young people cannot access the technology because of access to internet, and they cannot have, most of them, they don't have this formal account. However, nowadays, mobile money have reached many of them. So we can talk these issues from supply side and demand side, that from the demand side, young people needed to prepare themselves in a way that they can be able to get finances. At the same time, have persistence and build on whatever they have so that they can be in a business model which is more easy to be to to get the access to other finances to boost their businesses. And the other thing, which is more important in demand side, is documentation. We really need, we as young people, to document all our activities, to keep records, to have business plans, to have policies of the organizations or the enterprises that we are doing, because most of these funds, they are available. But if we are not organized in a manner that the grants or the loans or the finance from governmental or private sector, it can be easy for them to trust that the business that we want to pitch or want to do is viable, and it has maybe return on investment, or it has impact maybe to how many employment to be created, how many livelihood will be boosted, and something like that. So from the supply side, it is now at the high time that all stakeholders, including these financial and non-financial institutions, to see how they can provide services depending on the need of the young people. Financing youth in agriculture is must. It's not something that we should say that these people are not bankable and then we just leave them, because they have energy, they have innovations. We need to bring the education and the training program to capacitate them so that they can be able to prepare their businesses and run their business in a model that they can get a profit and they can return, maybe if it's loan. But also we recommend that financial incentive and grants to be offered, subsidized loans, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Filippo, for those salient points you raised. You talked about lack of knowledge and skills, and that's one of the reasons why youth are not actively participating. You again harped on collaterals and security, you know, not having the track record, not having business records that would qualify youth for some of those opportunities, loans, and, you know, capitals that exist. You talked about the role of mentorship and also issues around technology adoption. Of course, we have very poor internet infrastructure across Africa. We know that that is a big issue, and we know that governments across Africa at their different paces, and depending on the resources available to them, are trying to tackle some of those issues. But I particularly like what you said about formalizing accounts, and we see a lot of that problem not only in Nigeria, and I'm sure across Africa, in Tanzania, in Kenya, where there are some agripreneurs that have good, you know, proof of concept, they have good business ideas, but they are very hard to subsistence level. They don't have registered organizations, they don't have any web presence. They don't want, you know, they don't want to be formalized, because for some of them, they believe that when they are registered formally, then they are in government's database and government comes after them and starts asking them. So a lot of people that are actually qualified for some of this benefit from it. But I'm coming back to you. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, so I will just quickly recap again. So I said, if you look at Asia, for instance, that their youth are key players in the agri sector. They have started adopting technology, things like precision farming, the use of drones in their agricultural practices. And with that, they need very little input and they're able to achieve a very high output. But unfortunately, the youth on the African continent are not even aware of some of the trends in the agricultural space right now, and they still continue to see agriculture as unattractive and lacking in innovation. So I was asking, what are some of the interventions, what are some of the trainings you think we can design that will meet the needs of agri youths, that will enable them to be key major players in the agricultural value chain?
All right, I got you finally. Thank you for that. So basically, what I keep telling people is that training programs in terms of agripreneurship within the African context has to be tailored. We need to address specific needs, challenges, and opportunities as well. And then also break this down into, are we looking at rural or urban or peri-urban settings? And this is because, people don't, a lot of people don't understand is that, we watch all these fancy videos and you've seen them, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, with all this, like the Chinese doing some fancy things on their farms. And you're like, this is amazing. Why can't we do that here? But some of the things that I keep saying is that one, and maybe I'm going to speak specifically for Kenya, but I know it cuts across a lot of African countries. Our education system seems to have failed us for a good part. And that's because our education system did not teach us how to be thinkers and problem solvers. And when you look at other countries and you experience their learning systems, innovation is a key part of what they do. Problem solving is a key part of what they do. Critical thinking is a key part of what they learn and they do on a daily basis. And it now translates into what they're able to do in any sector and in any area of their lives. And so one of the things that I think we need to do first is overhaul our education system. Start creating an education system that focuses on the future, that adapts to adapting times. You can't be teaching agriculture that was taught in the 60s, that our parents learned, and you expect us to have changes. It doesn't work at the end of the day. And then two, when we're talking about the education system, which it's systemic, we can't wake up and say, hey, Mr. President, change this. It's like, as who? We need to figure out things on our own. We need to come up with our own training programs that start with in-depth research and say, this is what we are trying to achieve. What are we trying to achieve? Higher productivity, better value addition systems, better logistical systems, and then come and say, what do we have here? In India, they have a system they call Jugaad, and Jugaad basically translated loosely means local innovation. What do you have in your hand that can innovate, that can be used to innovate? We come and look at such things, and part of what we do as an organization, by the way, is we do training. We actually train, and our training is human-centered design and incorporates behavioral science, because understand people make decisions that they make, now understand how to solve the problem. And that's one of the things I keep saying to people. Understand the issues that people are facing, understand their thought processes, their decision-making abilities, and then now start to innovate for that. Two, I think the other thing that we have to look at when you're looking at training programs, we need to, people are like, oh, agriculture is boring. But there are people who have actually success stories. So if you're able to highlight success stories, it normalizes agripreneurship. If you're able to emphasize on opportunity costs, of the opportunity cost of not adopting to new techniques and business models, people are able to put two and two together. When you're able to say, how do we use, like, for example, when you're talking about behavioral science, we like to make people, understand their nudging skills, using reminders and prompts, and encouraging youth to apply new learned skills. And also, as you know, I keep telling people we are at an age where we have the most access to knowledge. Even TikTok is a place where people can learn something. Always pursue knowledge. It doesn't have to be in a classroom. You can always figure out something. I've met young people doing incredible things. For example, I have a cousin who actually creates drones. He manufactures them in Kenya. And these drones are used to do different things, deliver medicines, they're used for agriculture, and all. And you can imagine this was, of course, probably when he started, everyone was like, what is this guy doing? I mean, drones in Africa, like, I know you're an engineer, but he'd already seen the future. He'd already seen what precision agriculture will look like. And it's like, let me solve for that problem using local solutions instead of us importing drones. But also we need to also have, we also have to create agripreneurship training programs in a way that is hands-on. You do not want to give, you want to have, and one of the things that I realized when I changed learning systems is the practicality of the Western learning systems. How do you make things as practical as possible? Theory will catch people for 2 seconds and they're gone. And I'll give you an example. I worked with farmers in Tanzania, and they had been trained by a certain organization. And when we went there to now do like a post-training assessment, we asked the women, so what did you learn from the training? And none of them could remember a thing. They were sleepy, they were tired, they just felt somebody was talking the whole time. And I went and I challenged the organization and I said, man, you need to reassess and rethink your delivery. Delivery is very key because you have amazing content for them that will change their lives and change the way they do and approach farming and agripreneurship. Your delivery is so bad, they don't remember a thing. You literally wasted time and money because they don't remember a thing. Also, now the other thing is saying, how do we also, a topic I'm passionate about, how do we design for gender inclusivity? There are a lot of systemic barriers that face women getting into agripreneurship. Women are, they are untapped. So how do we address those barriers that they're facing? In terms of, for example, you go to the village and you have this woman who has maybe bees that they're keeping and they're like, oh, I want to go to the next level, but there are systemic barriers that are coming through. And you're talking about, I want to call you for training, but probably your husband is like, why are you going? You have kids to take care of, you have a home to take care of. How do you address those systemic barriers? How do you teach them how to approach their spouses in a way that, the spouse sees this as a benefit to the family and not as the woman being overly empowered? And then also just learning how to teach people on impact and metrics. I'm very, very big on monitoring and evaluation, on impact monitoring, on data. There's data in any sector, whether it's agripreneurship or otherwise, is the common denominator. If you want to move from one level to another, keep the data and you'll see how fast you'll move because you're able to track everything that you're doing. If you cannot track, you cannot measure. If you cannot measure, you cannot improve. So you need to be able to keep the data, and we need to teach young people about this. Data in all forms is important to keep. That's one of the ways that they will be able to move their businesses from one level to another. And I think Filippo touched on this. So basically, I would say we have a lot of work to do in terms of, looking at education or training programs from a systemic point of view, removing those barriers that have been there, increasing the use of technology, teaching people how to be self-learners and self-starters, increasing the amount of, teaching people about the importance of data and metrics, and just ensuring that you create a mental model where people now start to see agripreneurship as a lucrative side of life and business as opposed to something else. So that at one point they're not like, this is side hustle. This is my main hustle. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Ashley, for those very insightful points. I would have done a quick recap, but you have gracefully helped me summarize all your points. And I see that Aaron is in the room. I welcome you. Please, our audience, I hope you're taking away so much from the conversations. Please have your questions ready, because immediately after this question to Aaron, I'm going to throw the floor open for questions, for contributions, and whatever it is that you're taking away from this panel discussion. And after that, I'm going to come back to the panelists for their closing remarks. So Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I'm with you.
All right. Thank you very much for joining. We've discussed quite a lot of points as it relates to how we can unlock the opportunities in the agri sector and enable participation of our youth. We don't want them to be marginal players. We want them to be key players in that value chain. And one of the things that have come up consistently is the role of technology in agriculture, because when you're discussing agriculture and technology is not mainstreamed into it, then it's not going to be attractive to the youth. And that takes me to the question that I'm going to ask you. How can we scale technology adoption in Africa? Ashley talked about someone in Kenya that produces drones, but these stories are not being told. We really don't know about it. And even if we know, sometimes we can't even afford the technology that was produced in Africa. So how can we scale the adoption of technology and the use of technology in our agricultural practices?
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here with you today. Just to say, maybe let me begin it this way. Adoption of technology in Africa is taking so long, and it's something people take too much to even understand concepts that other people are putting on the table. So when it comes to Africa, there are so many factors really that are halting or altering the change and development, adoption of technology within society. It stems from various factors ranging from policy, finance, even mentorship, development of people themselves, personal development of persons also is a key factor. But as you say, the question was, how can we expand adoption of technology so that other people can get the benefit, the best out of it? There's a lot we can do, but most of it is going to revolve around policy. That's what, based on my personal view and then maybe research, I've noticed is more around policy. We're going to find ourselves discussing so many points, but all of them are going to take us back to policy. So in thinking about this, for us to adopt, to even be able to push the people forward, because mindset change is going to be key. But I think we have to fix it more into the education sector too, so that it's a taught process. It's something we learn over time. It's something that institutions of government, NGOs, even us as entrepreneurs really have to adopt. We need to emphasize more on education and adoption of technology. I believe there's more factors really that affect this, but more of it is in relation to what? To policy and mindset. But all these factors can be resolved with using education and policy, strictly that. Then, of course, when we go to mindset, there are things we can do. That's things like outreaches. Things are like organizing seminars in society. Things like just introducing these technologies. We can do things like expos, tech expos are very useful. I know people are scared of them. They always assume they're expensive to organize and that kind of thing. But when dealing with such things, of course, you need to focus more on the partnerships you make, because those people make it easy for you to do anything. As we go forward, we really need to, I don't know how to say this, but we need to work together with our systems, our governments. We all have different governments throughout Africa, Kenya, Uganda, TZ, and the rest of Africa. Things operate differently everywhere. So most times, there are other factors like war in some places, so they limit a lot of development, accessibility, and all that. But when we look at it in detail, the public needs to be more of driven to that point of understanding that for them to get change in anything or even simplify most of these activities they keep struggling with. Because take an example of a farmer. A farmer using a hoe will take probably 4 days, 5 a week to just till an acre. A person who hires a tractor will pay a small fee, but he will do it in probably 30 minutes, an hour, saving him a lot of time. Making people understand this is has been a very tricky process. Most times when you go, let's say, to the rural areas where there's more agricultural kind of land, it's a very difficult thing to make someone understand that you're paying some small money to do something faster is way cheaper than you putting too much energy to just accomplish the same task. So on my side, I would just say sensitization of the public, then mentorship to change the mindset, government policy are the main factors that can really help change this.
All right. Thank you very much, Aaron, for giving us those insightful points. Changing our mindsets, governments, enacting targeted policies that will enable adoption. Then you also talked about the role of mentorship, providing access to finance, and also organizing tech expos so that people can actually see those technologies at play and actually adopt them into their agricultural practices. Thank you very much for that. So now we open up the floor to our participants. Sorry. Please, can you mute yourself? I don't know who is interfering. Please, let's mute. Okay, now we are yielding the floor to our participants. We are yielding the floor to, yes, I can already see hands. Please, if you have questions, if you have contributions, please feel free to raise your hand and you'll be given the floor. You can also put your question in the chat box and I would read that out. But I see your hand up. Ojok David Donga, you have the floor. Please keep your questions to 30 seconds. We are actually pressed for time. Over to you. Let's unmute David, please. I'll allow him to unmute.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this program that has been here. I have quite a lot, but I'm going to try to be brief. You see, the challenge that the youth face is the inexperience. And you realize that when they want to do partnerships with different organizations who have been in the field, it is hard for them to actually get through because they feel that these youth themselves haven't moved through the steps of life in terms of the ups and downs in how to maintain their business. So where do you think, or how do you think you can help youth in that kind of category? Because let me say this, there is a limited time frame for a youth to make their product or what they're doing upscale. So 3 years is actually the maximum to say. So if they are not sustained in that phase, they deviate and they do other things because they feel like, we tried, we didn't get support and all that. So this is something that I faced during my earlier days, but because of persistency, things kept on moving. I think I will also highlight that age is also a factor in this. It is very hard for youth to meet with these guys who are up there who will provide this, as let me say, assistance in a way, because they look at you as a developing person. So they don't give that energy or that vibe. They would want to move with people in their criteria. So you can imagine that kind of segregation that happens. I've faced it a lot. So sometimes I'm like, you know what, let me wait for progress. Let time move as I keep on doing things this side here. So that is one part that I have to ask. And what do you think would be best to mitigate this? How are you going to hold these youth together, those who are starting up? Because there's a very big difference between people who have been there for more than 3-4 years compared to someone who is starting up. What are the nitty-gritties or the steps you're going to guide through them as they're moving through their journey? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that, David. I would route that question to Filippo because he talked extensively about access to finance. But Filippo, while you're gathering your thoughts, let's take the question from Brian. Brian, over to you. Brian, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, can you guys hear me? Or is my internet bad again? Yes. Okay, while we wait for Brian, Filippo, please feel free to take David's question. He's asking for, and that starts now. It is a factor. They don't have that track record yet. That makes them unattractive to funders or people that have the money. So once youth to be involved, but some of them don't really have much to show. So they're asking how can they navigate such delicate space. Filippo, are you still with us? Okay, if Filippo is not with us, Ashley, please, could you take the question?
All right. So I think in part, David has answered for himself, and he talked about the aspect of persistency. And, being persistent is a life skill because nothing ever comes easy, to be honest. And if it comes easy, you have had the road paved for you, and lucky you. And I would like to tell young people you need to have that thick skin. You really need to develop a thick skin earlier on when you're going into entrepreneurship because you will get a lot of no's, but in those no's, you'll get a yes. So if you give up very early, you live your life asking yourself the question, what if I did? And somebody once told me, always ask. The worst you can get is a no, and you move on to the next one. And then you'll obviously get a yes one day. Another thing I would tell young people in this regard, look for opportunities around accelerators, incubators. These ones they might not give you the money immediately, but they will upskill you to a point where somebody will believe in you. And they will make you understand business from a point of view that you probably not understand if you just go it alone and not learn from your own experiences. The best way to learn anything is from other people's experiences so that you don't have to repeat the same things and the same mistakes. And then somebody once gave me very good advice. She had raised about $3 million in funding for her business, but she's in tech. And she told me something: when you ask for money from people, you get advice. But when you ask for advice, you get money. So when you see this older, accomplished people, the first thing you do is not to ask them for money. These people already know that people always want something from them. Create a relationship first, build a relationship first. Sit down with them. My friend had a hack for his earlier days in his career, and he'd call people that he admired, people he wanted to be his mentors, and he would save up money and say, "Can I take you for a cup of coffee?" And they see a young man saying, "Oh, take me for a cup of coffee." And it looks like a joke, but at the end of the day, he'd actually offer to pay. And they'd be like, "Oh, something is right about this young kid." And that's how he started getting opportunities. And now he's doing very well in his career. So sometimes get out of your comfort zone. It doesn't matter. If I remember, he told me one day he went and the guy ordered food, and he said, I was bringing you for a cup of coffee, and to be honest, this is what I can afford. And the guy was like, "I love your honesty." And from then on, he started opening doors for him. So building relationships is very key. Getting yourself into accelerators, incubators, very key. Learn and learn and learn, and then apply for as many grants and opportunities out there. One of them will stick, or 5 of them will stick. So it's always about the persistency.
Thank you very much. I would have said let our panel give their closing remarks first, and we have a line of activities, but we cost quite a little by address the perception problem we have, inadequate financing issues as it relates to access to markets, policy somersaults, facilitating mentorships for our youth, and also technology adoption in the agricultural space. By addressing some of these issues and incorporating technology and creating supportive environments, we can make the agri sector attractive, and you can actually begin to see that they can have sustainable and lucrative career in the agri sector. I thank all my panelists today, Ashley, Aaron, and Filippo. Thank you so much for all the insights you've shared today. It's been very, very insightful, and a lot of takeaways on our part. So thank you very much. On that note, I hand back over to our panel moderator. Patience, over to you.